But I did want to pay a visit. I went to Enterprise, went to Westminster, and I'm going to Reach next week just to visit the schools before we conduct the hearings to see what's going on at their various locations. So at this point, I'm going to turn it either over to Ebony or Lorenda, just for a brief introduction, and you can introduce Westminster Community Charter School.
Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. Welcome to Westminster's renewal public hearing. Rob, can you do me a favor? Whoever's controlling your PowerPoint, can you decrease it just for a second? Good evening, Chair Hotman. So presenting to you today again is Westminster. I do know that Dr. Chisholm, our Director of School Review, is on, and so is our intern who will be taking notes, Ashley Scott. And I think that's it. We've delayed it a little bit. Rob, will you be beginning the? I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because I'm still hearing a lot of feedback.
I believe it was Madeline's. You would need to mute, okay?
I'm sorry, I don't know how to control my mute while also controlling the slides. I didn't see a way to do both at the same time. I apologize.
At the very bottom, there should be a microphone. If you click on that.
I can see it now, but when I had the slides open, I wasn't able to see it. So I'm sorry, my mute is on. So we're going to stop the slides after I finish presenting, and I can go on mute. Is that okay?
There's also a pop-up to the left-hand corner. There's like a screen within a screen.
Okay.
If you click that, it pops the presentation out, and you can have two separate screens to see everyone and to see the presentation.
How do I get to that?
It's on so where the microphone is on the bottom, to the left of that, further to the left, there should be like a double screen. And
I don't see anything like that.
Okay, then no worries. Will you be talking during the presentation, or will Rob be talking?
I will be, but I'm at the beginning, so after I go, I can slides and I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Mike Lucci can mute you also from our office as well.
Okay, great. That would be great. Thank you.
So the format for this evening is what we typically do. The school, you should do your presentation in roughly 20-25 minutes and leave about 10 or 15 minutes towards the end, just know for questions from the board. Okay? And go right on ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Rita Eisenweiss, and I'm currently the board chairperson for the Westminster Community Charter School. On behalf of the entire board and the Westminster school community, I would like to thank you for providing the administrative team with the opportunity to highlight the many programs Westminster offers to our students, their families, and the surrounding community. I will now turn the presentation over to Mr. Ross and his administrative team. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, President Belton-Kopman, Vice President Petrucci, board members, Buffalo Public School staff, community members, parents, and staff of Westminster Community Charter School. We are excited to share with you today our presentation for renewal. We will be respectful of our time, and we have many slides for you to take a look at. We will focus on certain slides, and we will direct you to those as we go through our presentation. So Ms. Connors will move us to slide 4. Westminster has a mission statement to challenge the status quo. We want our students to be encouraged to think differently about their situation in life. We want them to do this through learning, through creating safe and caring environments, promoting community, and we want to prepare students for their life when they leave us after 8th grade. As you see on slide 4, there are 8 key design elements that we are focused on. Throughout the presentation, you will see those at the bottom on a tab as we go through the presentations. I think in the days that we are now, technology and community partnerships have made such a big impact in the world that we're living today. Maddie, if you move to slide 5. We are building on the legacy of Bob Wilmers from M&T Bank and Dr. Yvonne Minor-Reagan. Westminster is the anchor of the Buffalo Promise neighborhood, and our goal is to support students from crib to college and beyond. And we do this in a variety of different ways. So of course, through the learning that students do in school, but then the connection to this community, especially the 14215. We work with partnerships, whether it is M&T Volunteers, Retrieve Buffalo, UB, Kaleida. So our students see the options that there are in the world and strive for that success. I'd like to introduce Maddie Connors now. Oh, I'm sorry, let me do this first. We built a strategic plan after our last board presentation because we know as a school that our goal needs to be successful for students in their education. So after we left our presentation 2 years ago, we thought through a strategic plan with Evan Rudall, who is the head of Attuned Leadership, formerly the CEO of Uncommon Schools. And we built a strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, 2 of our biggest priorities have been rigor and culture. In the last 3 years, we have been supported by Dr. Janice Harris, who is a consultant with Attuned. She's a former instructional superintendent from the DC Public Schools. Through our work with Dr. Harris, we have learned that we can move and leverage teachers to do smart work with their lesson plans, constantly using data to drive instruction, and studying student work. So you'll see on this slide, our focus really has been student culture and rigor. Those 2 areas are measured by Attuned. So the admin team spends time giving teachers feedback, going through the school both virtually and in person. And through that work, as you'll see through the overall numbers, we have shown growth of what we've been looking for from our teachers through the Attuned work that we've done. We believe deeply that being strategic over the next couple of years will increase student performance at Westminster, and will also have our teachers focused on the student and what they need to grow. You can go to the next slide. Maddie Connors, who is our project administrator, will now share with you some of our data points.
Thank you, Rob. As Rob mentioned, our partnership with Attuned began in 2018 because we recognized the urgency to increase student achievement at Westminster. After the first year of our partnership, our students grew 3 percentage points in both math and reading. However, these latest New York State test results predate our current charter term, so we'd like to turn to slide 10 and show you the growth we've made during this term. Westminster has invested in the STAR reading and math assessment so that we can monitor progress closely for individual students, for subgroups, and at the school level. With our strategic plan and our partnership with Attuned, our proficiency has improved by 8 percentage points in reading and math from September to January of this year. And as of January, we are exceeding our last state test performance despite the learning losses from spring 2020 school closures. In addition to the gains we're seeing in proficiency, we found that our students are growing at all levels. Approximately 40% of students who started the year below grade level have moved 1 or more benchmark levels on the STAR assessment from fall to winter of this year. We attribute our progress to our partnership with Attuned, our new ELA curriculum, our progress monitoring and intervention system, which has been strengthened by the use of STAR data, and our focus on progressions and power standards.
Okay, one more slide, Maddie. Our basis for our beliefs is that a strong curriculum with effective teaching with feedback will lead to student achievement. We are doing that a couple of ways. First way is that we are really working toward curriculum that matches the needs of our students, yet are rigorous, aligned to New York State and Common Core, and are research-based. That will lead to the effective teaching work that comes from PD, differentiation for students and teachers, But it goes back to what I talked about before, the lesson and unit internalization, and we study data through the DataWise protocols from Harvard University. In the past few years, we have added instructional coaches to our building to help our teachers at all different levels, and we work with a math consultant. Through these, we believe that we will move to student achievement, and we're happy to be able to show some of that today through the data from STAR. I would like to introduce now Angela Conway, one of our assistant principals, to talk about our curriculum.
Good afternoon. So as Mr. Ross just discussed, we've been focusing on reviewing our different curriculums to make sure they are research-based, horizontally and vertically aligned, and rigorous. We've also made a commitment to help our teachers build their knowledge base around their grade level content so that they can internalize their lessons and the standards being addressed within those lessons. This process of internalization should ultimately enable the Westminster teachers to provide students with a solid foundation of understanding, which will then lead to opportunities for critical thinking. So with that said, we know that having a strong curriculum is the first step in increasing student achievement. Over the past year, after analyzing data, we came to realize that our ELA curriculum had not really been serving our students well. So we researched different ELA curriculums and found one that is research-based and has a record of success in schools with similar demographics. This curriculum is called Wit and Wisdom, and while it does teach reading and writing skills, it also focuses on building knowledge and vocabulary. We've been piloting Wit and Wisdom in grades 3 through 5 this year, and as you can see from the chart on the bottom, the results are very positive. Not only did we recover from a slight decrease in ELA scores on the STAR assessment, due to the pandemic slide, for better lack of words, but we have a higher proficiency than last year. Because of these positive results, we are looking to expand this curriculum into other grade levels. There you go. As for math, we continue to utilize the Engage New York curriculum for grades K-5 and illustrative math curriculum for grades 6-8. With our commitment to make sure our curriculums are horizontally and vertically aligned, we've begun to discuss developmental progressions of math concepts with our teachers. Having this knowledge of these progressions helps teachers to scaffold their instruction and move students' understanding from the concrete to the abstract. After analyzing the data, we found that our students have gaps in number sense, specifically around the base 10 system. Therefore, we built a 30-minute fluency block into classroom schedules so that teachers can spend extra time working on those foundational numeracy skills and problem-solving strategies with their students. As you can see in the chart below again, there's been an 8% increase in math proficiency from the fall to the winter. Okay, next slide. All right. Because we believe in well-rounded instruction, we've also made sure that we offer our students a strong science and social studies curriculum. Most importantly, our teachers have worked to connect all subjects with interdisciplinary writing. Students are expected to make claims, give reasons, find evidence, and work with a common rubric in all subjects. So one of our key design elements is staff development. And so as you can see on our slide, Westminster provides staff with content-focused training and ongoing professional development all year long. The leadership team at Westminster, like Mr. Russ mentioned earlier, also receives support from attuned educational partners. We've worked quite extensively with Dr. Janice Harris on rigor culture audits, data analysis, and the internalization protocols. Okay. At Westminster, we're committed to meeting the needs of all our students. Most recently, our work around math concept progressions and the science of reading has helped all of our teachers, but especially our special education teachers, to understand how to scaffold lessons in such a way that they target a student's specific needs. Westminster utilizes the inclusive model of special education, which means our general education teacher and special education teacher co-teach with each other. This allows for a greater communication and collaboration. We also have a special education coordinator that meets weekly with our special education teachers and collaborates with Buffalo Public Schools CSE and service providers. I believe it's pertinent on this slide to point out that our ENL population more than doubled from the 2019-20 school year to the 2020-21 school year. As a result, we've hired a second ENL teacher in order to continue providing both push-in and pull-out ENL services. Our ENL teacher, both of our teachers provide differentiated services based on STAR data and NICETEL level. As I stated earlier, Westminster is committed to meeting the needs of all of our students. We provide numerous supports for struggling students, and we work collaboratively in order to create strong and targeted intervention goals and plans. Our most recent intervention plan, I feel, demonstrates our ability to think outside the box in order to increase student achievement. Due to the pandemic, we had to be creative with our intervention plan, so we, of course, started with the data. And an analysis of the ELA and math data revealed certain patterns of need throughout grade levels. Therefore, each grade level was given specific Tier 1 goals to focus on, and also differentiated Tier 2 and urgent Tier 2 goals for small group instruction. These goals are part of an 8-week comprehensive plan. As you can see from the chart below, the early findings of the 8-week cycle intervention plan are extremely positive. In fact, 48% of students improved benchmark levels after only 2 weeks of intervention. We're really excited and eager to continue monitoring the student success throughout this 8-week cycle.
Thank you, Angela. I'd like to move to LaMonica Harris, an assistant principal, to talk about culture, climate, and family engagement.
Good evening. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. We apply the same tiered intervention system to our social emotional learning as we do our academics. We use a universal screener called DESA. The information is analyzed and collected 3 times per year. Students are placed in interventions that are designed based on the results, and then we have bi-weekly SEL meetings to monitor the students' progress. And this is just a list of the different interventions that we do offer our students. One thing that we did try to do out of the box during COVID was that we did notice that our younger learners in primary, some of them were not logging on within a regular time frame. So we contacted our parents to see what the issues were. And so we decided to institute night school, where the parents and students are able to log on, learn with the teacher together, and then the parents are able to help the students with the information after class. And we so far have about 15 students in grades 1 and 2 that are participating. Next slide. Our suspension rates continue to decrease. This is largely due to our implementation of restorative practices that we started in 2017. And our restorative practices approaches allow our students and teachers to repair the harm and focus on continuing to build relationships. Our attendance rates continue to remain steady, and our current attendance rate is 93%. Our chronic absenteeism, we continue to work with our families around the students logging in and coming into school when that was available, and we continue to do this through interventions and incentives. 24. This is a list of the extracurricular and enrichment activities that we've offered to students and families throughout the years, from after school to sports to our play, and to our partnerships with Northwest After School Program and UB Science. And then we realized last year that we needed to do something a little different around what we would offer students during the summer, because we knew students would not be able to socialize and partake in different activities that they normally would. So we collaborated with the National Summer School Institute. We collaborated with Exploring More, Soccer for Success, and then we even did our own thing where we put together summer learning packets and kits for families to come pick up throughout the summer. Next slide. We also want our students to continue to live healthy lifestyles by having good health. So we continue with our healthy lunch program that we continued for the remainder of last year when we pivoted in March. And then we also offered lunches throughout the summer to our families and also to the community. We continue to offer those lunches to our school community and surrounding community, and families are able to pick up a box that they can take that has a week's worth of meals in it, as to not interrupt the student learning, as lunch is sometimes in the middle of the student's school day. We continue our longtime partnership with Kaleida Clinic, and they employ a full-time nurse practitioner. The doctor is in once a week. We have a social worker through them, and we also have a medical assistant. We continue to work with the Lion Sea Club to have some of our primary students screened for vision issues. We continue to work with UB Dental, and Westminster itself employs 2 school counselors, a social worker, and 2 PE teachers. Next. Through our partnership with Buffalo Promise Neighborhood, we are able to continue to offer various services to our families, such as parent coaching, job coaching, financial coaching, and free tax prep. And as you can see, many of our families still take part in whatever is offered to them.
Thank you, LaMonica. Next slide. So as many of you know, a year ago, we were thrust into the world of the global pandemic. So we, just like Buffalo Public Schools, made a quick switch in March and tried to reach out to our families in any way possible. Then we spent the summer creating an action plan to get feedback from the different stakeholders and decide how we were going to open. Through surveying our parents and our teachers throughout the summer, we decided on a remote and a hybrid model. We began on September 1st. Approximately 40% of our families chose hybrid, approximately 60% chose remote. Our goal was to make sure that 100% of our families were surveyed. So we reached out to everyone to get our families to feel comfortable at a very uncertain time. We are very proud that all of our students have received live instruction daily, whether they are hybrid and remote. And it's through the support of our families and the support of our teachers who have navigated those changes throughout the year. I would like to introduce Courtney Chamberlain, our Upper House counselor, to talk about high school destinations.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am one of the school counselors at Westminster. I work with our 5th through 8th grade students, and it is my privilege every year to help our 8th graders as they transition from researching to applying to selecting their high school and moving on to graduation. We start this process in the summer before 8th grade. We hold meetings with our families so that they know exactly what they should expect to encounter throughout the year. During the students' 8th grade year, I teach a class that meets weekly called Future Focus, and we teach students about the many different schools that are available to them and help them work through the application process. I am very excited to say that all of our Buffalo Public School applications are in for this year. Currently, some of our students are completing their City Honors and Olmsted applications, and many of our students at this point in the year are completing charter school applications. We are lucky that in the last 8 years, we have had a handful of students who have been accepted at private schools. And those students have had the opportunity to apply for a scholarship through our partnership with Buffalo Promise Neighborhood. Buffalo Promise Neighborhood has supported and funded scholarships for over 35 of our graduates over the last 8 years, which has been tremendous. We encourage our students to apply to high schools across the 4 categories: public, criterion, charter, and private. And you can see from this slide that our students end up attending many different schools. What is essential to us at Westminster is that every one of our students and families is aware of the many options that they have and that they attend a school that is a great fit for them. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Courtney. Ms. Harris will share with you some demographics and retention information.
We continue to retain our teachers and our administrative staff. And then looking at our teacher diversity, we do know that that is an area that we need to make some changes in. So we have some ideas that we're going to put forth, change some of our hiring practices to review all of the applicants, to put together a committee and to partnership with some regional HBCUs and some MSIs. These graphs here are a focus on our economically disadvantaged students, our students with disabilities, and our English language learners, our retention rates of students, and then our students return to Buffalo Public Schools, and that's where we're going to focus on for just a moment. You can look down at the bottom right, and the solid blue are students that leave us and return to Buffalo Public Schools for various reasons. It could be transportation, it could be that they move, it could be that they go to a criterion school, just various reasons. The bottom part, which is striped, are the students that leave us due to have been expelled from Westminster. And as you can see, those rates have gone down significantly over the years. In 2017, there were 6. In 2018-19, there was 1. And 19-20, there's been 0. And that is largely due to our restorative practices that we're focused on building relationships with our students and with our parents and with our teachers.
Thank you, Monica. The next slide shows our recruitment strategies. One of the things that we really want to do is to make sure that families who want to have a choice understand what we offer and what programs we have, no matter where you come from, what language you speak, or what area of the city of Buffalo you are in. These are just some examples of the different strategies that we've used over the past couple of years. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. There are some more charts and information in the appendix, and now we will open it up for our question and answer time.
Thank you very much, Principal Ross, for your presentation. At this point, I'm going to recognize board members who have questions in the order that they logged in. Our first board member would be Board President Sharon Belton-Cotman. Board President, do you have any questions of Westminster?
Well, I thank you very much for your presentation. I want to say that Westminster has a reputation in this community as being a excellent educational place to attend. However, recently, and I'm still fuming over it, at the commissioner's office, our hands were slapped because she felt that we should have closed Westminster and Enterprise in 2019, I think it was, and the district did not. She also pointed out that we are responsible for this charter school. We did not know that. My understanding is that Westminster and Enterprise could do whatever they want to do. We didn't have a say in it. Not true. So maybe I should have been saved to be the last one, because in moving forward, I'm not getting my hands slapped again on behalf of any charter schools that Buffalo Public Schools is supposed to be monitoring and making sure that they are productive. She also went as far as to say that you're complaining about other schools, but the 2 schools that you have issued have had over a 10-year history of not performing to the level that they should have performed. And so it was not pretty in that meeting that day. I was upset from the perspective that I had been sitting on the board from 2011 and no one had ever told me that we had jurisdiction over these 2 charter schools. One charter school sued us. So certainly I would think that you can't sue somebody who you have jurisdiction over. So excuse me for letting this fall short of that. So in looking forward and trying to move forward, you guys have done a phenomenal job in what is called the missionary approach. The parents love you. They feel that they're doing a great, you know, the school is excellent. However, we both know that this urban education formula is very complicated and very difficult. And the proficiency is what we have to be accountable for. And we have, you know, for me to hear you say, we've looked at and we've changed our strategic plan and this, that, and the other, I guess if we had the commissioner here, she would say, what took you so long? You understand? Because it's not easy right now for Buffalo Public Schools in regards to this charter environment. For whatever reason, people seem to think that the charter schools are outperforming the public schools, when in essence, they want to lump 20 charter schools and compare them to 50 or 60 Buffalo Public Schools where we take on our students. I don't know if I overlooked it, but I don't remember seeing, and I could not see those slides very well. The disability part, your special ed part, your teacher diversity. I want to know how many teachers that you have in your in there. I want to know about your board. I want to know how strong is your board. Okay. I do know that an awful lot of money has been spent on Westminster, and in trying to move forward and trying to make sure that we move forward in a proper way. We, as a board, have to give the state our decision next week in regards to our recommendation. And so I need to know those things, because to say that you have, changed it, technically, according to the state, you should have been closed in 2019. And that's the slap on our face, because I did not know in 2019 the data that exists in regards to that. I can say that I feel that you have made that you are better than our other charter school, as far as what I could see for proficiency. So we certainly have seen improvement in that area. But it just suffices to say that we have got to do things in a different way. And so one of the questions I also want to ask is, are you receptive to having someone from the Buffalo Public Schools be a part of your board of directors moving forward? We're certainly not going to be held accountable if we're not. We have to be. If we're being held accountable, we have to be a part of the decision-making process. Okay, because we can't continue to move forward as we've been doing. But I also heard you say about, the great history, but then when I pulled my data, and I have a file on you, and it goes back to probably when I first came on the board, the issues that you have are consistent. They're not new issues. So, you said strategically, you're painting a picture that you've, done something really dramatic, but you've had this problem for a while. As I'm looking at all your renewal reports for as far back as I can go back, and they go back. So I guess what I'm saying is that, we are being held accountable for your charter school. And I need to know what your board looks like, how strong is your board. I need to know what your diversity and staff looks like, because everyone is struggling for diversity. But certainly with a charter school that has the ability not to hire people that are certified, but can find people in the area that have the expertise, I have a problem struggling with that, because you certainly found, I understand the guidelines and I understand a lot of things, but charter schools have leverage that we don't have. And so I expect, different things, but just know it wasn't pretty in front of the state. We were on a virtual meeting, probably had about 30 people online. Well, no, I say about 25. I won't even say 30. And we got our hands slapped real hard on behalf of Enterprise and Westminster. And it doesn't feel good. And the commissioner is expecting for us to come back with some solutions and some ideas. So I need all the help I can get. And I'm going to depend on the staff for their recommendations as well. So that's why I'm on my soapbox. So I went first. I guess but you got to know it's not pretty sitting there and being raked over the coals as you're complaining about other charter schools in the area. I just want you to know.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. A couple of those answers we can give you very quickly, but I want you to know that all of the staff, especially presenting on this, and our teaching staff and our teacher aides, want Westminster to rise to the occasion that everybody is, and we do like working with Buffalo. I always say we are the conversion charter school of Buffalo. Dr. Chisholm and Dr. Bullock have been wonderful, giving us feedback and walking through the building, and as I've always said, Westminster is open to any board member at any time, so you can see our practices, because those are our day-to-day that we go through, whether we're in the COVID world or not COVID world. A couple of the data points that you brought up are in the presentation. The board members are listed at the back, and Rita might talk to that in a moment. We have a 9% African-American teacher rate at this point, 14% minority teacher rate. Our special ed numbers have dropped over the last few years because we've had 2 classes of 8th graders that graduated larger number of students, and less students have applied through the lottery system with IEPs. But it is definitely something that we have always worked on for years, and our teacher who is coordinating with Buffalo has worked very well with the Buffalo Public School when students have gone through the process. So if there's anything missing from the presentation that you need, we'll certainly get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Rita, did you want to say anything about the board?
Regarding having someone from Buffalo Public Schools or one of the board members from Buffalo Public Schools join our board, we would certainly welcome that. Having worked in Buffalo Public Schools for 33 years, I know that there are a lot of things that can be offered to us. And I would welcome hearing from anyone that is interested in joining our board.
I'm not sure if it would be a board member. It may be staff. We're not sure at this point. We have not had that formal discussion. That's part of the process that we will have in the near future. But thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And we certainly would welcome a staff member as well. Anyone that's interested in joining our board, we're always looking for additional people that bring different ideas and that. So we would welcome that.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Kottman, for your comments and questions. Mr. Scott, you are up next. Larry Scott, the floor is yours. There you go, Larry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you for your very comprehensive presentation, being transparent with your data. I especially appreciate you sharing the suspension data and your work with restorative practices, also with retention and students returning to Buffalo Public Schools. I did notice, similar to almost all of our charter schools in Buffalo, that your percentage of students with disabilities and English language learners, although increased over the years, still significantly lower than our population of students with disabilities and English language learners in Buffalo Public Schools. I think the only question I have that I typically ask all charter schools, do you provide any self-contained classrooms for students with disabilities, 6 to 1, 8 to 1, 15 to 1, 12 to 1, or is it just strictly co-teaching that you provide?
So currently it is strictly co-teaching because that is the need of the students that we have with IEPs. We certainly would have a 611 or an 811 if we had the correct number of students. We have not had in the last couple of years any students apply with those needs, but it is certainly something that many years ago we did have here at Westminster. So we are certainly open to that.
Thank you. That's all I have. I appreciate your time.
Board President Kottman, I saw you raise your hand. Do you have an additional question before I move on?
You're muted, Sharon.
You're muted, Sharon.
My apologies. I didn't know I had done that.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Sharon. Next up, we have at-large member and chairman of our Educational Support Committee, Terrence Hurd. Mr. Hurd, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your presentation today, Principal Ross and your staff. I just have just a quick couple of questions. I know back in 2019, the Buffalo Public School District supported the Westminster Charter School to the Board of Regents and recommended that you get reinstated for another 3 years. And I know that I also read into that, you were renewed for 2 years, and now we're back here again. And some of the educational values, as President Sharon Belton Cotton stated about, that's in flux right now. Since the district has supported this school, if it's anything that we can do to help, get your grades up, and anything we can do with getting learning, and I like to hear that your ENL participation has doubled. I would like also to see a stronger participation of minority teachers and recruiting on your staff, because what percentage of minorities do you have in your building?
Teacher, 14% minority, 9% African-American teachers.
And your percentage of students?
We are 550 students. I'll get the exact number. I don't want to quote it wrong from the papers. I will get that for you.
Estimate is good.
Predominantly African-American, and then a smaller Bengali population that has begun.
Right. We know from studies that African-American children, respond more, to African-American teachers. And I know it's been a draw trying to get, African-American teachers in the city, and we're trying to promote educational learning. Another thing I would like to see also is because the way districts support Westminster Charter School is that that you can try to help support the district also, in your high school recruitment, and sending kids back over to us. So let's continue to work together and keep fighting hard. It's a tough battle, and we're here. Also, I did work with Kenneth Cox with the Blue Angels program to try to get established here at Westminster Charter School last year and the year before. I know with some things going on with Promised Neighborhoods and funding, but he still contact me and try to get that program established and working. So we continue to converse on that and move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Mr. Hurd. Next up, I have Central District Representative and Chairman of our Finance Operations Committee, Paulette Woods. Ms. Woods, do you have any questions? The floor is yours.
I have a question about, do you have significant reserves about your financial situations? What's your financial status as far as reserves, set aside monies, that type of thing?
So we do have money in reserve for a couple of different things. 90% of our budget goes to instruction, and about 8% is the management and general expenses. Our reserves, as you know, we are converted charter, and our teachers belong to the BTF. So our policy is to fund the post-employment health benefits at 100%. So that's $4 million that is set aside for that. And the remaining reserve, which is sitting there, is connected to capital improvements, because we were not part of the restoration project of the Buffalo schools. So we have identified that we need approximately $4 million for certain capital projects that we need. So we can get you more details if you need that.
So you're basically saying you have maybe $8 million. That's not very large in your fund balance and in your reserves?
As I said, yes, I'll get you the exact. The post-retirement is the bulk of that, because we want to fund that 100%. And then any reconstruction, whether, for example, like an elevator, that type of things that we would need going forward.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. Next up, I have my fellow Executive Vice President and East District Representative, Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown. Ms. Brown, the floor is yours.
For your presentation. I just have one question. It's sort of off of what Board Member Larry Scott mentioned about the special ed students. You indicated that you do not have the number of students to accommodate for the smaller classrooms. Are the parents aware that you offer that particular service? Is it in your marketing information, for example?
So in a lot of our marketing, we say that we fully support any special education needs that may arise. We have not received, as I said, any students that have asked for that. At times we've had students come in who need OT, PT, those speech, those type of things, but we have not had anybody inquiring about a 611 or an 811. But when I began at Westminster years ago, we did have a 611 class that then journeyed up to 8th grade, and they graduated, and there were no students that came in behind with that designation.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Evans-Brown. I have a few questions. I didn't see anyone else, but if they are, I'll ask when I'm done asking my questions. Regarding your board, Principal Ross, is it a volunteer board or a paid board?
We are a volunteer board.
Okay. Is primarily for edification of those who may be watching, is Westminster a chain charter, or did you guys kind of grow organically from a neighborhood interest or need?
We grew from the neighborhood and the vision of Bob Wilmers and Dr. Yvonne Minor-Reagan and the support of Buffalo Schools.
Okay. With respect to transportation, do you provide transportation to your students?
We do not provide transportation to our students. We have a lot of students who are walkers who live right around the school. And then we have families that drop off their students. We have a few buses that come from students with IEPs, or if there's a student who lives outside of the district. But we are a true community school in our belief, and the bulk of our families are in walking distance to Westminster.
Okay. And the other question I asked, just your elevator speech as to what makes your school unique. Because one thing that charter schools should do is they should be innovative, they should be unique, they should be doing things that we don't do that we can learn from.
So I think that's a great question at this point, because I think for years we were trying to do everything like traditional schools were doing. And I think what we've learned through our strategic plan is that the first thing that makes us unique is that we are here for the community, and not just the students that come here, but the outreach that does, the families, the connections, that word of mouth that goes around. So that's number one. Number two, I think that we want a family to join us and stay with us. So things like night school during this weird COVID time is something that came up from what Ms. Harris had researched as a way to get those families to want to stay with us. I think the other thing is the connections in the community. So through the work of all those agencies we've talked about in Buffalo Promise Neighborhood, I think we can offer a lot of opportunity for the students at Westminster. And so often former graduates come back and tell us what they loved about their time here, whether it was the play or an activity or what we did. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I did not talk about the work we do for high schools. So whether it is a Buffalo public school or a charter, we want our children to be successful with us and then when they leave us. So I think those would be the big things in my elevator speech. That I'd go on, but I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Are there any other board members that are on the call that wish to speak? I just went through the participants list. I just want to make sure I give everyone an opportunity to ask questions. Yes, Mr. Scott, you have one more question?
One more quick question. And I think you mentioned it earlier and I was distracted, so I apologize for my ADD moment. But as far as with the pandemic hitting, what's been the trajectory with remote instruction and hybrid instruction? How many students are attending in person? If you could break that down for me.
So we have a 60-40 split. 60% of our students are remote, 40% of our students come into school. It is live teaching no matter which of those options, and every marking period, every quarter, we allow families to request a spot if we can fit. Socially distance is still, just like it is for Buffalo, a huge issue with the 6 feet. And we've been able to accommodate. And then we started opening up in one of our classrooms a virtual learning center for a couple of students who could not fit in their classroom because of the space requirements, but they're in school, online, safe with teacher aides and teacher assistants, and every quarter we're looking at it. We have a large number of families who live in multi-generational generational houses, so they are concerned about exposure. We also have a lot of families who work in different areas of healthcare. So I think that's part of why we have our 60-40 split. It is slowly starting to inch up a little bit more as we move through the pandemic. But as I said earlier, our goal was 100% of our families feeling safe in whatever choice they thought was right for their child.
Very well explained. When did you begin the opportunity for in-person? And how many days a week are you attending?
September 1st, 2 days a week in upper grades, 4 days a week in primary. And as I said, when you're home, you're having live instruction with the same teachers. And again, all of that was tied to space and the requirements.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hurd. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Bullock to close out the meeting. Ebony, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Westminster, you did a good job today presenting your charter. We welcome the partnership. We welcome the collaboration on behalf of the kids of of Buffalo. And so we will make sure that you can get your responses to the board. Did you need any clarification on the questions that they asked of you? No. So send them over to Dr. Lorinda as you would typically do. We'll send them to Dr. Brown Hall. And he will send them right over to the board. Have a good night, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.